Let's now look at sex in the Bible and its love-hate relationship with sex with your family, homosexuality and prostitution. Sometimes it's seen as a good thing done by good people, and sometimes it's a bad thing done by bad people. It's a bit disturbing to have incest covered so completely in the Bible. Before God gave his laws to the Jews in Leviticus forbidding same-chromosome relationships, Lot impregnated both his daughters when he was drunk. It's okay though, they got him drunk. This was the same Lot that God saved from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, as he was the only person who wasn't sinning. Lot wasn't the best dad though. When the angels came to warn him to leave and the crowd outside his house wanted to rape the angels, Lot tried to placate the crowd by offering to send his virgin daughters out to be raped instead, as a kind of distraction. God or Jesus, or God Jesus, depending which part of the Bible you're reading, went on to take back the laws of Leviticus as he said they were man-made. This was after he said they came from him. So maybe it is okay to impregnate your daughter. The Bible wouldn't lie. So Lot escaped the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah because he was such a just man. His wife, as we know, looked behind her and turned into a pillar of salt. And believe me, I'll be coming back to that passage in a little bit. And then he found himself in a cave with both his daughters. So let's see where the Bible picks us up at Genesis 19:34-36. The next morning the older daughter said to her younger sister, "I had sex with our father last night. Let's get him drunk with wine again tonight, and you go in there and have sex with him. That way we will preserve our family line through our father." So that night they got him drunk with wine again, and the younger daughter went in and had intercourse with him. As before, he was unaware of her lying down or getting up again. As a result, both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their own father. Let's see if that's contradictory in the Bible. Oh yes, Leviticus 18:6. You must never have sexual relations with a close relative, for I am the Lord. Now we can argue that Genesis happened before Leviticus, and God may have changed his mind about sexual relations with your family from being a good thing to a bad thing. But God being eternal and never changing, that's unlikely. He wouldn't have changed his mind, would he? Let's jump forward a few chapters now to Genesis 29, where we can look at marrying members of the same family, or in fact our family. Here we're going to talk about God's favourite, Jacob. He says, "It is not our custom here to marry off a younger daughter ahead of the firstborn." Laban replied, "But wait until the bridal week is over, then we'll give you Rachel too, provided you promise to work another 7 years for me." So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, his cousin, Laban gave him Rachel, her sister, too. So it's okay for Jacob, but then by Leviticus God again has changed his mind, and in Leviticus 18:18 he says, "While your wife is living, do not marry her sister and have sexual relations with her, for they would be rivals." Moving away from sex with your family now onto homosexuality. In Leviticus 18:22 we're told, "Do not practice homosexuality, having sex with another man as with a woman. It is a detestable sin." That's pretty clear until we come to God's favourite, David. He says in 2 Samuel 1:26, "How I weep for you, my brother Jonathan. Oh, how much I loved you, and your love for me was deep, deeper than the love of a woman." I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that one. On to prostitution now. You get the feeling that the Bible is against prostitutes, but only a little bit. If they are the daughters of priests, they should be killed, which is naturally a sensible policy. Otherwise, they are just gently discouraged, or conversely, trusted with top secret religious information, like when Rahab helped the Jews into Jericho. By the way, Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute. That story is fictitious. Well, it's not in the Bible anyway. So let's start off where God doesn't like prostitutes. Genesis 38:24. About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has acted like a prostitute, and now because of this she's pregnant. Bring her out and let her be burned," Judah demanded. Leviticus 21:9. If a priest's daughter defiles herself by becoming a prostitute, she also defiles her father's holiness, and she must be burned to death. And just earlier in Leviticus 19:29, "Do not defile your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will be filled with prostitution and wickedness." So essentially what God's saying there is don't do it or it'll happen. Now by Hosea, God has changed his mind, and in Hosea 1:2, when the Lord first began speaking to Israel through Hosea, he said to him, "Go and marry a prostitute, so that some of her children will be conceived in prostitution." This will illustrate how Israel has acted like a prostitute by turning against the Lord and worshipping other gods. So it's okay for God's prophet to marry a prostitute to make a point, even though being a prostitute seems to be quite bad. But some prostitutes are actually treated quite well, like when Joshua went to destroy the walls of Jericho. In Joshua 6:25, so Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her relatives who were with her in the house, because she had hidden the spies Joshua sent to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. Well, maybe not to this day, she's probably dead now, but that can just be seen as another little mistake. But we don't have to pay too much attention to Leviticus, because Paul discredited them in Colossians 2:22 when he said, "Such rules are mere human teachings about things that deteriorate as we use them." So this means that sex with your family, same-sex relationships and prostitutes are generally a good thing. It says so right here.